and welcome to the Glacially Musical Podcast. Beer, metal, swearing. I forgot what the hell I was doing already. Yes, off the rails. Of course, this is Nick Cameron of Glacially Musical, and I am joined by my good friend, my man who knows everything, who always has the answers, Keefy Clavin. How we doing today, buddy?
Was that Cliff Clavin? Keefy Clavin?
Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
yeah.
Cheers references. I used to live in Boston, not too far from the original Cheers.
I had to think for about 10 minutes straight on the drive home. What's Cliff's last name?
Clavin.
I couldn't
He was
remember.
in Star Wars.
Was he?
He was a stormtrooper in Star Wars.
Okay, we'll count it. I mean, Simon
Um,
Pegg was not even Simon Pegg, but he was in it, so whatever.
yeah, he's
Kevin
been in a
Smith was
bunch
in
of things.
Force Awakens, even.
Yeah, yeah. How you doing, buddy?
Life's an eternal hellscape. I'm over my COVID, still a little snotty, but the real thing about what the COVID did to me was I couldn't eat for a week. I basically nibbled and drank beer
Like a
and
chef.
water. I drank water this time. And now that it's over and the snot is out of my stomach, I cannot eat enough food. I am on the Hobbit trail of foods. I'm having 11sies, luncheon, tea, breakfast, second breakfast. I just can't eat enough. Twice. I mean, I have gotten literal second lunches after I've eaten my lunch at work, which means me bringing my lunch to save that $9 wasted 2 days in a row. So I don't even think I'm going to bring my lunch. I'll just fuck it. I'm just going to go get a big old pile of fried rice and maybe a St. Paul sandwich, which you probably don't even know what that is.
Please enlighten us what a St. Paul sandwich is.
The St. Paul sandwich is a staple of the St. Louis Chinese cuisine scene. It is an egg foo young patty on white bread with accoutrement. It is the greasiest and deep fried. So it is a deep fried egg foo young patty on white bread with lettuce, pickles, and mayonnaise. I hold the mayonnaise because I don't do the mayonnaise. But before we get to you, want to say thank you everybody for checking in. If you are a new listener, last week I said things that were wrong. You have made a tremendous choice. It is going to definitely earn you the respect of your peers and possibly some material rewards on the eternal plane. Because here at the Glacier Musical Podcast, we are about the material plane because it's what we see, feel, and drink. But here's what we do: we do a greeting, we do a beer check, we do a vinyl check, we do a shirt check because we're on YouTube. And speaking of which, if you're on YouTube and watching this, please smash that subscribe button and tickle that like, thumbs up, whatever. I don't know. My kid says it better than me, but she can't come on this. So with that, how are you? Hopefully we are on the up and up, and if nothing else, return to the living dead, eat some brains.
Exactly. I'm all right. It's not great, but I'm just trying to maintain. These are one of my few guiding lights to life. Forgive the I'm adjusting constantly. I have a kind of brand new tech setup, stopgap measures. I don't want to go into why, but
I hear you.
I have a new
I
webcam. You will now see my microphone is now right in the camera frame. Usually you don't ever see it. It's usually off to the side or
See,
under
I
the
think it's
camera.
very YouTubey to have the
It is
microphone
very
in.
YouTubey. You can now also see my vinyl check hiding in the
Uh-huh.
background. You can see my messy bed. Unfortunately, I think those are my camo pajamas. Sorry,
Keefy's
everybody.
bed is where the magic happens.
It is where the magic happens, and yeah, man, I'm just making do. I'm just making do. But I appreciate this.
I
This is a gift to talk to you twice in a week, and
Oh, that is ridiculous, but I
people
appreciate that.
won't know that based on when these run, but still, also pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I really glad we decided because the way today was supposed to go was supposed to have been something else. It's going to happen. Don't worry. I'm not going to announce it because I don't want to announce it and jinx it because it's really fucking cool. But I bought a beer specifically for this week, which is the Small Town Hustle Hazy IPA. It is a pint. It's from Sudwork Brewing from somewhere in California.
Hashtag California. I'm part of that. I live in California, so I'm all about it. I love it. Oh, that's a nice pour.
Some hazy stuff.
It's hazy. Is it officially a hazy or is it
Oh,
just
yeah, it's Small Town, Sudwork Brewing, California. 6.5% Galaxy, Citra, and El Dorado hops. It is hazy. It's a hazy IPA. I would call it an extra IPA, but that's just being and the full pint. That's going to take about an hour to settle.
Lovely. My beer. I lost my audio there for a second. My beer today, which is a beer you can see here on the side of me, is a beer I've had on the show before. I just have a surplus of these Misfits, Calicraft, Fiend Lager. I need to keep drinking these so I can empty the fridge. And this is today's drink. And much like the last podcast, I don't have an actual beer glass that's clean. So it's going to go into my desktop drink. This is alternately a pencil holder. This was probably a salsa jar from Trader Joe's that I stuck some band stickers on. You can see Stonecutters right there. Love them. Guts from upstate New York. And I'm just going to drink my beer out of this because I have nothing else.
Oh, that is my favorite thing today. I was hoping it was a pickle jar.
Horrendous pour. I love pickle jars.
But it's not.
My dishwasher is broken, and my building is supposed to replace the whole one because the guy's been here like 10 times trying to fix it. And so I never grew up with a dishwasher, so that's a complete luxury to me. But now I realize the value of it when the things pile up and you don't have the clean beer glasses. I normally have like 3 or 4. I don't have any clean ones. They're all just sitting stacked up in the sink like a bad barred person. But anyway, here's a little half a pour, and I'm going to take a sip. I already love this beer. Everybody knows. Let's take a sip.
Would you believe that I still have about 5 beer glasses at my old place that I haven't moved over yet?
Well, moving is the devil's work, and it's really hard.
Yeah, that is. Look at that color.
It's like almost like a cream soda. I like it.
Looks like eggnog. It is unusual. This is Galaxy, right? Yeah. Oh, when I bought this, I had it in my mind. It was Noble. Noble hops are my favorite. I'm so snobby. I can tell you I know if I'm going to like a beer based on the hops because I'm a turd. As for my vinyl check.
Yes, let's have the vinyl check.
So this one's interesting. So give me a minute and we will discuss it. As you may recall, we went to see Warrant a couple of weeks ago. My wife is a big fan of hair metal and especially loves hair metal ballads. And seeing her like this, whenever they played the 1800 ballads I saw that night, made me suffering through Winger worth it. But as a thank you for what I don't know, I picked up Warrant Cherry Pie. Now, it's already been cleaned. It's already in the Mylar. You may notice that the back cover is different. The front cover has a real shitty version of the cover art. And the label is wrong. This is supposed to have the Columbia label. There was a red edition of this album pressed in 2017. This was pressed in 2022. However, what I learned after I purchased it from a record store in the shrink wrap, Planet Score Records, and then here's the inner sleeve with what's her name? Bobby Smith?
Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown, I was close. Who ended up marrying one Janie Lane. But this is a bootleg.
Her book was really good, by the way. If you really love the hair metal era and the, she was a video vixen, Tawny Katane, rest in peace, and others. So her book is actually quite good. I read it. This
is a bootleg press. I only paid $20 for it. It sounds fine. Wasn't what I was trying to buy. I purchased it unknowingly, unlike the other bootlegs I purchased completely knowingly. Sam Hain or Sawen, I don't know how they pronounce it. Initium, I got a bootleg press because they never repressed it. So sorry, don't care. And then the other record I got, you already know about this one, but we have shubba-lubbed so many times that when I came across this for $30, Warrant was $22, by the way. The repress, 180 gram modern repress, sounds amazing. No insert, just a sleeve that I'm not using. Usually I throw them on the floor and then pick them up for later, but I haven't done that on this one. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Mother's Milk, one of my favorite. See, my favorite two albums by the Chili Peppers are Mother's Milk and Blood Sugar Sex Magic, followed closely by the forgotten One Hot Minute.
That is also my top three Chili records, and transport yourself back in time, if you will, to the 80s, if you're old enough. Halil Slovak was so integral to the birth and the sound of the Chili Peppers. When he died, it was like inconceivable that they could even replace him. Because he has such a specific sound and such a specific. How do you mix Parliament Funkadelic, Jimi Hendrix, and like Ohio players? How do you Nile Rodgers? How do you coalesce those things? And I found Frusciante, John Frusciante, who literally obsessed over this band and obsessed. He was obsessed with Halil, and that's how he did it. I broke the Mother's Milk tape twice in high school in my janky Sony Walkman. Sorry, Sony. And a cassette is a terrible format. I will never not believe that in all my life.
It is terrible.
Not a good format if you love the preservation of sound. If you
it's
love
a great format if you like finger fudging your format, though.
Tape shit off the radio, make demo tapes in your bedroom of your band, all those things, phenomenal. Portable, perfect. Otherwise, because you wouldn't be schlepping around a whole bunch of you can't schlep around a turntable and records. You may be able to soon or now, but you couldn't.
You can if you do it stupid, but I wouldn't recommend it.
So, yeah, man, Mother's Milk is phenomenal. I wish I had that on vinyl. That is a future buy for me.
That was the first Chili Peppers record I've ever found in the wild. And first and only.
I will also say again, the Chubba is a reference to Anthony Kiedis' singing style, coined by my dear best friend Curtis Dunlap. Copyright 1991 at least, or 92. And just like Kiedis is like the worst, least talented guy ever that has like accidentally his way into a Hall of Fame career as a singer.
I would say best worst, but we're splitting hairs. I will also say that I did find out recently that there is a Walmart exclusive pressing of Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which came out in July. Perhaps those are available for someone to purchase.
If you were to so want to give Walmart your money.
I know.
So,
but I have a Walmart Metallica pressing, so
that's also yes, I have a few. Is that all? You all done?
Yeah, I am done for the week.
Okay, I have a vinyl to check today, and we'll see. Again, I move my camera a little bit and see if this new setup does justice to this. But this is another Gimme Metal Radio Vinyl Club exclusive. This is a brand new repress and deluxe edition of Converge's "You Fail Me." Complete
nice.
With artwork from Jacob Bannon, the frontman of Converge, and quite the artist. You have the iconic front cover. I've seen them perform this album in full in Europe. The back cover. This is an entire, this whole so this sleeve is beautifully. You can't really appreciate it from here, but this is glossy and really sturdy, actually. And then also, we'll do this in a little bit reverse order than I normally do. Let's take a look quick at the vinyl. This gorgeous splatter with the label, also inspired by the artwork by Jacob Bannon. And then this incredible, I don't know what you would call it, a quad fold, gatefold. I don't know what this is or how to describe this.
We're going to call it a Paul's Boutique.
This is insane. Look at this. So like I'm going to just do this in inverse kabuki order, open. I'm going to try to represent this as good as possible. I am sorry. Open, open, open. So that's the front. The album slips inside the sleeve there, and then again the back.
Also, no, that's a triple.
Yeah, triple.
Paul's Boutique actually has a quad. If you want to see it, I can grab.
I mean, this has a fourth, right? So I didn't open it, but like I don't know if you can see this is.
Four. Oh, it does have four. Okay.
So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here's Paul's Boutique. So it opens. And it's like that fancy bread. You open it once, it still ain't open.
Ha!
You open it twice, it still ain't open.
Fair play, sir. Fair play. So this thing is phenomenal. I do love this album. It's not their best Converge album. I don't know. I don't believe you're a big fan, but I am a big Converge fan. I have seen them all over the world. I saw them in a VFW in Salem, Mass. before they were famous. When I was just a visitor there before I lived there. I've been to God City Studios. I interviewed Jacob. It's an incredible band. And
Very
this is a
cool. The
great
only band
record.
I've seen before they were famous would be Black Dahlia Murder. I saw them on their first tour with King Diamond.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there were and honestly, I'll be. I don't know if I mentioned this during the King Diamond run. I watched it. Went, my God, these guys are shit. Shows what I know.
I think they were so groundbreaking and ahead of their time that it took time to kind of get like what is this? It took time. They were kind of combining all these different OSDM, melodic European metal. We're gonna talk all about this in a second, and Black Dahlia Murder might be the most prominent descendant of a European melodic style black and death metal band ever. Like we have, it's for a future discussion. Again, they're about to do their first show ever at the Celebration of Life concert for Trevor in Detroit. They just got announced for the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest, which we talked about last episode, or in a previous episode. I don't know when this is going to run technically, but
No,
yeah,
it will be a previous because this will run.
yeah, in the future.
But it's gonna get weird later. Sorry,
We'll see what happens.
but news of the day. I've got one item that I'd like to throw out, and I'm surprised we actually haven't talked about this already because I feel like we should have, but I don't know that either of us heard about it until I heard about it yesterday. Perusing the World Wide Webiverse, thinking about maybe purchasing a record, which I did, but it's not here, so it's not checked. But used up my Amazon points, bye points. Hello, record. Um, I am on record and about not really liking to repurchase albums I already own, regardless. Give me extra tracks, whatever. I don't care. So every time we've talked about, excuse me, oh, they re-released Pulse. Oh, they re-released this, they re-released that, and I'm like, I'm probably the likelihood of me buying the expanded edition of Roger Waters. Actually, I don't know if it's expanded, but the 45 half speed mastering edition of Roger Waters' Amused to Death, my favorite Roger Waters record. Probably not buying it. The rumored Coverdale Page repress that's coming. Probably not buying it. I might buy that one because of the way. That's a poor example because that album is a 60-minute record on one vinyl. So it's too squished. I probably will buy that one. But I found out that Iron Maiden is re-releasing a 30th anniversary of Number of the Beast. It is a 3-disc set. Oh my God. Keefy's pointing out that it's 40. I am going to die soon. Okay, 40th anniversary of Number of the Beast. It's a 3-disc set and comes with a complete concert. So I am really on the fence on that one. I pointed out to the kiddo that she should tell the mommy that I would like that as a present. Because then it's got, and I'm not breaking any of my vows. But it does have a complete concert from 1982, and that is famously underrepresented in the Iron Maiden live canon. It's not expensive. I think it was like $45 as of right now. It starts shipping next month from Amazon.
Holy shit. I would want that also. Maybe it'll be a Christ Mass present for you.
But I mean, my copy of Number of the Beast is an OG pressing without the insert. So,
I am trying to think about what is newsworthy today. I'm just trying to think about like what we haven't talked about or if there's anything major. I don't know. Gwar has a new song with Lizzie Hale of Hailstorm. That's pretty cool. On their new album, and they did a video for it. That's pretty cool.
we forgot to shirt check.
We will shirt check after the news.
Okay.
Randy Bly of Lamb of God has said that he sees maybe not an end to the band, but a day when he won't want to tour anymore. And he has been very adamant that you will not see 60-year-old Randy Bly, on the stage. He's like, nobody's going to want to see this. I don't want to do this. I'm a much better writer than I am a metal person and band artist. And he has many books planned to come out. He's working on a photo book right now, as well as his passion for reforestation in Ecuador, where he has help contribute there by buying up unprotected land and protecting it,
Well, with
along with
every
locals.
with every musician, it comes to the point where maybe you just don't want to be on the bus for 6 weeks to,
Smelling these guys' farts for another year. Like,
and then on top of that, how much toll it takes on the body, even if you are. I mean, I don't fly that much, but I've flown pretty significantly for somebody in America, especially a Midwesterner, because we don't fly, we drive. Because well, it's only 10 hours. That's fine. I can do that. But it takes a toll on your body just going up and down in those things. So even if you're flying first class, it's still, again, as we've mentioned 30 times, Metallica will only do 50 dates a year, and they pretty much take 5 to 6 days off between their dates when they're touring because it's that much of a drag, and they're getting old.
yeah.
And Iron Maiden's tours have gotten progressively smaller as years have gone on. Nico McBrain is in his 70s now. Iron Maiden, the first Iron Maiden gestation business started the year I was born. So Steve Harris's musical career is older than me. And I think we've only got one Iron Maiden record coming. One Iron Maiden record and 2 more live albums, I think, is what we got coming. And then we're gonna have no more Iron Maiden, and I think we've only got one more Metallica run, one more big Metallica run left in them. But speaking of Metallica and gift clubs, we are coming up on the next segment, the next edition of the Metallica Vinyl Club. Got an email that it's supposed to be shipping a week ago, 3 weeks ago, so that's good. But did I gave the I Fight Dragon news before, didn't I? Oh shoot! Camera, come back. Can you go ahead and pause while I'm farting? Nope, I'm fine. I'm good. Professional, as always. I Fight Dragons is re-releasing their debut, their major label record, and doing a short tour with MC Lars and Schaefer the Dark Lord. Not coming to town again. They work regular jobs, so can't do big tours. And I am rambling. I'm going to stop.
I just want to point out it's not quite a news thing, but it's an observation that Scorpions just finished a U.S. tour, except Judas Priest and Maiden are all on tour in North America right now. If you love heavy metal, classic heavy metal, The Gettin' is good.
And that was one of the things Mick Wall said years ago on a VH1 special, that the greatest thing about heavy metal at that moment, I mean, this is 25 years ago that this happened, but it's kind of still happening, is the classic big metal bands. The genre is young enough that you can still see them. And Ozzy's tour right now is probably not going to be great in terms of his vocals, but if you've never seen him, get out there. If you've never seen Iron Maiden, yeah, they've lost, frankly, 4 or 5 steps, but if you can, get out there and see them, because it's it. This is we are, for a lot of these guys, anybody whose debut album was in the 70s or 80s, we're looking at their end game. So just keep that in mind going forward.
Here, I agree. I think also Venom had to cancel their North American tour, and they're hoping to rebook at some point. But
Which Venom?
I don't know. There's a Batushka on tour. I don't know which one it is. I said this already. It's like I have no idea, yo.
All right. Are we ready to move forward?
I think we are.
All right.
We need to do a shirt check.
Oh, shirt check. I am rocking Motive, which is a defunct metal band out of Arizona. My friend Steve Bouchard led band. He wrote all the songs. He's an amazing writer, an amazing player. And I have purchased his albums in Motive, in Travail, and Crucible. Most of them local St. Louis bands. Wished he could have made it because he had that kind of talent, but it is what it is.
Cool. I'm sure this is a repeat for both of us. This is my Witchcryer shirt. Love this band. Stoner Doom band from America. Great stuff.
But I haven't worn this in at least 6 to 7 months because it's a jersey.
Okay.
3/4 sleeves.
Mm.
All
Okay.
right, what are we talking about today?
This Chaser episode is brought to you by Beer and Melees. We are going to discuss the Mount Rushmore of death metal. Who are the big four death metal bands of all time? This is a
And,
crazy task to try to take on in the last 35 minutes of this podcast.
and I guarantee we're going to do it and finish it and solve it, and everyone will agree. 100%.
They're all going to agree.
All going to agree. And then in prediction, in 6 weeks, the big four we definitely will have chosen by the end of this evening will announce a tour.
That'd be pretty cool.
And they'll play the biggest venues death metal bands have ever played.
There's been a rumor for many years that Cannibal Corpse. Well, I was like that Amon Amarth tour.
That's a big tour.
About to kick off. Has three, definitely two of these bands, and a third that kind of belongs there. So in the modern sense. So. Okay. You raised a really good. This topic was chosen completely off the cuff a few hours ago before we recorded this, so not as much planning as we normally do.
Zero planning, no preparation.
Death metal has been widely underrepresented on my tenure in the Glacially Musical podcast, not on purpose. It just is what it is. We haven't done a run of a death metal band that I know of. You have done some unboxings. You have done some discussion. We both love death metal, classic and modern.
Mm-hmm.
So let's unpack what the criteria should be for the Mount Rushmore of death. Who should be on the Mount Rushmore of death metal? And you know why I have Mount Rushmore in my mind? Because I fell asleep watching Hulu, and Ozzy and Jack's World Tour came on, and they went to Mount Rushmore.
Okay, so before we set the ground rules, let's get one thing very distinctly clear. Okay. Who's on Mount Rushmore?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I don't remember.
So Mount Rushmore is in North Dakota, chosen only, or South Dakota, sorry. South Dakota, North Dakota? Oh, I don't remember.
South
Dakota, chosen because South Dakota didn't have any big monuments or landmarks or tourism, and so they decided this will be the place we put it. I believe Teddy Roosevelt was a fan. Without guessing or looking, I'm going to surmise that I think I know three of the four.
Is it four?
It's four. It's Mount Rushmore's four faces.
It's not five.
It's not five. It's four.
Okay, so
Washington.
Mount Rushmore.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say Teddy Roosevelt or Alexander Hamilton.
Roosevelt. Hamilton was not a president. So
not FDR, Teddy. Because of when Teddy. It was built. Teddy, who I don't necessarily think is a great president, but okay. People think he is. I guess he's got some...
We have to explain who these people are. Okay?
Right. Three founding fathers and a guy who felt like he was.
No, there's more to it than that. We're going to go a little slightly deeper. Give me 30 seconds. You have the first president, the creator of the presidency, because he created all the presidents. You have the person who expanded the presidency. You have the greatest president of the 18th century, the Middle Era. And then you got a dude that was there too at the time when Mount Rushmore was created. So to me, Mount Rushmore is, we have to have one of the first death metal bands. We have to have one of the popular death metal bands. We have to have a later death metal band who expands the premise. And then we have to have somebody from now.
I like what you're doing, and I'm going to co-sign this. Normally I wouldn't, but I'm going to, and you put it down so well, I have to give it to you. And right. I realize why Teddy is on there. Besides
Teddy was there because he sanctioned it.
He not only sanctioned it, he helped get it paid for. He is the president that expanded, like he was a preservation, I don't know if he was a preservationist, is fair, because he killed animals, big game hunter, but he was very concerned with national parks and preserving land for the sake of it. I don't think he
I still feel
Americans
like
very well.
He got there because he was there that day. He was
Well,
the best
so
president.
I don't think we'll say like we'll treat the fourth band that we had, the final band, better than Teddy should be
Teddy
remembered.
Roosevelt, hear me out, was the best president at the time that Mount Rushmore was commissioned.
Okay, I don't think so, but okay.
The best current president when Mount
Leading up
Rushmore.
to him, there was a bunch of duds.
No, no, no,
So
no, no.
like,
You're no, you're not understanding what I mean. He was the best of all of the U.S. presidents that were in existence at the time of the creation of Mount
he was
Rushmore.
alive when it was sanctioned.
He was the only one, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a very niche moment.
All right.
He was the best current. He was the best sitting U.S. president at the signing of Mount Rushmore.
Okay, so we're gonna go by that. We're gonna
Okay,
for the
so let's
purposes
start
of this
off with
podcast.
George Washington.
Yeah, well, so before we do all that, let's open it up a little more.
Okay.
To solidify the criteria, we've had this discussion about the Hall of Fame. Means nothing to me, but I love talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Judas Priest will be entering the Hall of Fame in a week and a half.
In is in.
Huh?
In is in.
In is in. Doesn't matter how you got in. Doesn't matter why you got in. If you're
they don't
in,
ask
you're
you
in.
how many goals. They don't ask you how many.
But also, like the Sports Hall of Fame, shouldn't be up for debate. You are 100% an all-time classic lock, or you are not in. So
Agreed.
if either of us are like habana, no.
I think okay. I think George Washington of death metal is going to be
we're not there yet. Not there yet.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Patience. So we're not just be a little more patient. So we're not just talking about American bands, even though we invented the genre. You're welcome, world. We're going to count bands from all over the world. So that opens it up to other bands, England, Sweden, other places.
But we're using the Mount Rushmore presidential criteria.
Yes. But I just wanted to make everyone understand there will be some representation possibly from non-American originators of death metal.
And I think by doing it this way, it makes it an easier conversation.
Perhaps.
So may I begin? Because I think
now you may. I will shut up.
I think George Washington is going to be a very simple one, and neither one of us are going to disagree with my choice. Death.
100% agree.
Death is not my favorite. I'm not really a fan of Death. However, Chuck Schuldiner, God rest him, created the template, created the system, and everything is he wrote the boxes that everybody ticked off. So that's an easy one.
No disagreements. Every single thing Death did, whether they may not have been the first, they were the first great, and they certainly set the template for everyone else. And everything, literally lyrical, vocal, guitar, album artwork, aesthetics, production, everything stemmed from the Scream Bloody Gore and the original Death albums. And rest in peace, Chuck.
Completely agree. Now we move on to the Thomas Jefferson, a semi-contemporary of Death, somebody who took the template of death metal and made it more. I am going to throw out my first non-American band. This would be Carcass.
That is an interesting and great choice. They definitely belong in the conversation. Grindcore, death metal,
melodic death metal,
tons of gore, incredible musicianship.
Blast beats for weeks.
Blast beats, although they didn't invent them. Hard to argue with Carcass. I would say my number. I think Carcass is on the Mount Rushmore.
It's hard to argue, but I'm going to figure out a way.
I'm going to find a way because I'm a contrarian prick, and I think the second band, because an order is important, and we've already established that the fourth band is going to be more of a come lately.
Correct.
I would put Cannibal Corpse second.
Really? And what did Cannibal Corpse do to expand?
Cannibal Corpse, visionary vocal style, much more than Chuck.
Agreed.
Visionary lyrical subject matter and album covers. Best album artwork in the genre to this day.
Even if it's
horrible, but again, put the genre on the map. In some cases, got them blacklisted from whole countries because of this artwork. And
agreed.
I think in terms of progressive metal, Death didn't get there till toward the end, and Cannibal Corpse was there almost at the beginning, where their guitar parts and bass was much more almost not progressive rock influence, but progressive in a way that catapulted the genre forward for musicianship. Death did too, but on later albums, not their first couple.
See, this particular spot is difficult because it would be very easy to throw out Obituary. Obituary is all of those things you just suggested. And I like Obituary better than Cannibal Corpse. However, I still have to go with Carcass because of Carcass's expansion of the genre. They took death metal from almost punk rock to almost symphonic jazz in terms of complexity, musicality. I will make the concession, lyrically, they're not the best. Credit to my man Spose on that one. They also do not have giant egos. Also, Jeff Walker looks frighteningly like my father. I don't like that. I wish he would stop. Go back to the dreadlocks, get rid of the greasy black hair.
Jeff Walker and Thorin from the Lord of the Ring Hobbit movies, never in the same place at the same time. Thorin.
Oh, no. Jeff Walker wishes he was Thorin. Come on, let's be realistic here. Look, Thorin is attractive. Very attractive.
Oh, Jeff stop Walker, it. Jeff is very handsome.
He's in Carcass, and that's awesome. Awesome.
He is.
Carcass also had the two vocalists, although Bill stopped for some reason.
So let's agree on Carcass for 2. I think your case for Carcass is so good that I'm going to acquiesce.
All right.
I think you have to have Carcass. I feel like if you're going to continue with your theorem,
now we have to move into. Oh,
it starts to get hard now.
Now we got to move into the mids. We got to go a little later.
Well.
Ooh.
I think later is hard because they at a certain point the first 10 great death metal bands all overlapped.
Yeah. And then it gets to that spot where it got really blah.
No, I'm not gonna. I think now we're at the point where we're just gonna. It starts to become about like levels of great and who is greater, and so. I'm
gonna let you go first on this one. Who's Lincoln?
Right. Yeah, I mean, Lincoln. Republicans, you cannot take credit for Lincoln. End of story. He was technically a Democrat. Anyway,
he was a progressive. He was not a Democrat. He was a progressive.
He also said many times he would not have. He wanted to keep the Union together, and
right.
He was the way forward.
He was a liberal.
He was more liberal than people remember. This is really brutal, and no pun intended. This is a brutal pick because also this pick.
I hurt myself trying to do blast beats.
Yeah, not on the podcast. This is going to. Please don't. This is going.
Never again.
Someday we'll have a console and we can plug in little sound effects and fun.
My thighs hurt.
They might now. This is brutal because you, no pun intended. You kind of have to give it to me. I mean, fuck Chris Barnes, but you kind of have to give it to Cannibal Corpse in the 3rd spot. I'm not thinking about the precedents right now. I'm just thinking about this 3rd spot is the last old school OSDM band in the world. So, of an innovative, creative, great band. So, we have Death and Carcass.
And I don't think it has to be OSDM.
So, to me, you're talking about choosing. I'm going to start doing a rundown, if that's okay with you, of other bands.
Hit it.
I made a short list right before this pod.
And then I fucked it all up by changing the system.
I'm going to pick Cannibal Corpse here. However, that is over Obituary, Deicide, my favorite death metal band, Suffocation, Immolation, Possessed, Internal Bleeding, Nile. We haven't even mentioned Morbid Angel. Then non-U.S. bands at the gate.
Or Deicide,
I said Deicide. Bolt Thrower, Napalm Death, and
Napalm Death is not involved in this conversation.
Gore Guts. Well, we have Carcass. Why would you not have Napalm Death?
Because Carcass moved from, but they moved. I mean, granted, Bill Steer and Michael and Mott were in both bands, but Carcass went from a Napalm Death clone into Carcass.
That's fair. That's
Nobody
fair.
thinks of
But
Rika
they did start out as a
Putrefaction as
clone. They started out as
yeah.
a clone-ish band. But anyway, Napalm Death, I think, a little more innovative, but maybe the consistency counting the breakup and things. But again, Entombed, Gorguts, and Cynic. That would be just my short list of the greatest death metal bands ever, and I have probably left out a few.
Arch Enemy.
I don't.
Arch Enemy fits.
People's love for Johann era is nonsense. Seriously, not they're not. They were not the same band. They were not that good a band. People's memory of that. Oh, he was a dude and he was so harsh.
I never even heard it.
So don't even bring them up. Arch Enemy not on the list. Not on this list of classic early bands. Again, Arch Enemy is really only 25 years old. This is bands that debuted in the 80s, probably mostly.
I am thinking that the third spot should be a little newer.
You said the fourth spot should be newer, so no. This is the old band.
No, the first two are supposed to be like the originals.
I think this third one is later. Spot still not that much later, like 5 years later, not 25 years.
Okay,
later,
well, you know what? In this spot,
I'm going Cannibal, but you go who you want to go.
I have to go Morbid Angel.
Okay, hard to argue with those first 4 records, and then it's way off a cliff.
It's easy to argue. You know who we didn't even mention?
I said I was going to leave out somebody.
Sepultura.
More thrash than death metal. The death metal vocals, not the death metal music. They could have played it. They could have played. Have some moments. They have some moments, but they're not classically a thrash. Death metal record. No, I mean, to me, Chaos AD is their punk record. It's more punk than anything else. It's more hardcore, American hardcore, than even death metal.
Okay.
That's my personal, and I'm a humongous Sepultura fan.
We're not going to argue. We're not going to argue that point. There's been a lot of people that have not called them
Sepultura would be a great band for a run of albums for Glacial.
Completely would. Let's see, who else is there that has not?
I mean, you said Obituary. I would accept Obituary. I would accept.
Obituary is a little later. Their first record was 90.
Well, again, that's 88.
But I still have got to go with... I still got to go with Morbid Angel.
Okay,
Morbid Angel is...
Yeah.
Morbid Angel is the sum of all of the Tampa Bay death metal bands put into one. And, the blast beats are phenomenal. You cannot... If you can say an unkind word about Pete... If you can say one word against Pete Commando Sandoval, I hate you. David Vincent was one of the very early groundbreaking death metal vocalists by having 2 voices. No, he had 3. He had 3 voices because he had the standard growl, he had the screech, he had the Carcass screech, and then he did the Southern Preacher. Bow to me, fair. He didn't use that one much, but then you had Trey Azagoth, who was freakishly large, was on the steroids, would go to Mexico on tour to get steroids, smuggle them back in his amplifiers, because, you got to get huge. You got to get ripped.
I was sure you were going to say smuggle him back in his anus. Go ahead.
And we're not talking about prison wallets today. Next week, maybe. This week, no. But next to his watch. In his anus, next to his watch. God. That uncomfortable piece of metal sat in my ass for 7 years. And now I bring it back to you.
5 long years I had this watch up my ass. And Butch, it's now going to you.
It is your birthright. It has been up 2 men's asses for 7 years.
How do we break this tie, or do we not break it yet? We come back later and try to break ties, or we just break it now?
Cannibal or Morbid?
Jesus.
You know what? Frankly, I will acquiesce on this one for one reason and one reason only. One of the things about all of the presidents, apart from Teddy, on Mount Rushmore, is they are all exceedingly popular and well known. So that gives although I prefer Morbid Angel to Cannibal Corpse, it does give the edge to Cannibal Corpse, as they are the highest selling Tampa Bay death metal band of all time.
I think Morbid Angel's the second best selling death metal band.
Third, I believe. Strictly. Deicide's higher.
Really? It's hard to believe. See, to me, Deicide was always a great on top tier, but the bottom of the top tier. That's just me.
Well, and we were
Jim
actually talking.
Kelly to Joe Montana, Dan Marino, and John
Yeah,
Elway, but
was
like
was
still
actually
great.
talking about death metal and one of my buddies at work today, and we talked about Deicide and how there are certain like Deicide records people absolutely hate, and I'm like, how can you tell? Because I love Deicide. You don't need to buy every record because they have a formula. They know how the formula works, and they do it. Morbid Angel is similar. However, I think Morbid Angel has better production than Deicide, which makes the records better.
Fair.
Because if you don't record death metal correctly, you get Blessed Are the Sick by Morbid Angel, which sounds like.
It's still a
So,
great record. I think those
yeah.
first ABCD records are untouchable in the genre, hard to argue, and then way off a cliff in quality. Whereas Cannibal Corpse to me gets rid of Barnes and goes up and up and up and up and up. It continues to
Yeah,
be
I mean, I prefer Corpse Grinder. So, yeah,
continues to
but
be great.
I,
So do
I
I.
would,
I do not like. I Corpse Grinder. Whatever you want to say about him, he's able to do the classic material justice, and he came in with his own thing. And I mean, so many elements for the
and he
Corpse
buys his
why they
wife
win the
teddy
day.
bears.
He loves Star Wars and fun things, and he's
Teddy
a
bears.
human being, unlike Barnes, who's not a human being.
Correct.
So
So,
that's three. So you're going with Cannibal.
gonna go.
I
I'll give you.
respect Morbid, and again, those first four records are hard to f with.
So now we get to Teddy. Now, for me, we're not going to do the most popular, city, not just the one guy. So for me, the idea of the Teddy spot is somebody who has to be, at least newish in the 20s. It doesn't have to be, brand new. But I think right there, I land between Revocation, Black Dahlia Murder, and Amon Amarth. And I go, ugh.
So I got one for you didn't mention that I think
Okay.
trumps all three of those. And it's going to be cattle decapitation. And I'm going to tell you why.
Uh,
Really? I'm so shocked to hear you, meh.
I find cattle decapitation to be technically wonderful, expertly played, rather samey, and I hate, hate the drum trigger blast beats.
Yeah, that's your modern sacrifice. A couple of other bands that probably could get an honorable mention here: Cataclysm.
Lella Hell,
Sorry,
Lella Hell,
sorry,
Lella Hell.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Lella Hell is an Algerian brutal death metal
I have
band.
never heard of this band. You're going way too random. Again, Mount Rushmore,
I
not
know. I'm just.
random small bands.
I
I could
know.
pick a
I
million
know.
random small bands.
That's fair.
Cataclysm, not some band I never heard of. Okay, Crisian is a band that I would give up in this spot. Here's the thing about Cattle, or on a better, I love Revocation. Right, here's the three you drop. Revocation, incredible band, not technically always death metal, and actually most of their early records are really thrash, and they broke away from that to be a little more death metal and a little more uh, you know expansive of their sound, but they're really hard to pin down, and I think most people would struggle to name them as a classic officially death metal band.
Okay. We could
Now
also throw out Necrot.
Necrot is incredible, but they're very recent and they only have three albums, so no.
Blood
uh,
Incantation.
Blood Incantation I love a lot. There's a few others. Here's the thing about Amon Amarth. I know people love them, and I also am a fan.
I'll give you they're a little bit bland.
They have mailed it in big time. They stopped being death metal. They really are a thrash band with death metal vocals, similar to Jungle Rot, who I'm also a big fan of. They have very consistent album to album, really consistent, but basically the same sounding record every time. Same with No Monomorph. Who was the third you threw out? I just want to give you your due.
Black Dahlia Murder.
Black Diamond. Now, Black Diamond Murder might be the band here because, like, they are. I know it's very fresh with Trevor just passing away, and the jury's out on how they're gonna do without him. But like, Yeah, it's hard to like no other. Few bands have put down a 20-year thing like they have, 2002 to now. I mean, they would be there for me. Cattle would have to be there for me because even if you don't like the drum sound, and I mean, I left out Malignancy. There are other bands that I mentioned Internal Bleeding, Pyrexia is a
Oh yeah,
smaller band.
oh, I forgot about
I mean,
Eternal
I love
Bleeding.
Internal Bleeding. I'm biased
Hmm.
because I'm from New York. Again, Suffo is my favorite death metal band, probably followed by Nile and Cannibal Corpse.
Abysmal Dawn is another
Abysmal
one.
Dawn is incredible. I think all the modern bands the last 20 to 25 years, you're just going to have that Children of Suffocation drum sound. They all followed Mike Smith and Suffo, who
That's
perfected the
why
blast beat. I don't
that's
love.
why Black Dahlia Murder
Yeah,
and Amon Amarth
yeah. I think
come to
Monomarth
the
kind of
fore for me.
disqualifies itself by just not being that death metal anymore. They're
All
much
right,
middle of
I
the
will.
road.
I'll accept
They're
that.
very middle of the road. I think Black Dahlia Murder might have to get the nod. Gorguts is incredible and has a flawless drumming. Cynic to me as a prog nerd, I love almost more than a lot of these bands, unnaturally so. Even their comeback stuff is better than the majority of the genre albums that people will cite first and foremost. I'm probably leaving out a bunch. I'm sure some nerds are going to come in here and name check a bunch of bands we left out that I didn't remember or you didn't remember. I mentioned Bolt Thrower earlier is another band
You
that
know,
you're not acquainted
I
with
will
them,
say it. I like Bolt Thrower.
but you don't love them.
Correct. They're overrated.
Well, again, bands that break up, they just get like extra hit points on
But
this.
it's
They get those hit points.
I didn't. Another band we could have thrown out was Master. I have worn my Master T-shirt
Master is
frequently.
great. Massacre is great.
Yes. However, both of those, or we didn't even mention Cryptopsy.
We did not mention Cryptopsy, although a very controversial band. I love the albums without Lord Worm. That is sacrilege to many people. So many. I traveled to Canada to see Cryptopsy, Chrysian, and Cataclysm open for Voivod. I traveled 20 hours round trip to go see a festival. Those four bands were playing in a row. And Despised Icon was also on that show.
I had another one and I lost it.
I'm sure we'll remember a bunch after this is over. I mean, like some
Yeah.
of that early list, if we didn't, you made this criteria and I'm going to adhere to it, we would have been fighting. I mean, like, how is Obituary not on this? How is, we left Morbid out to put Cannibal in, Deicide, Suffo, very
Oh,
hard.
Putrid Awful is another band that could have been in
Very
that
good
first
band.
one. That's the one I forgot.
Okay, that's
Uh,
fair. That's fair.
because
Um,
their album Mature Necropsy made me think of Cryptopsy.
yeah, yeah. Who's De Profundis,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Vader, even though they also straddle kind of a thrash
Well,
and death metal. How about Goat Whore? Now, Goat Whore has had a very interesting career where they started out as like straight up blackened death metal. Then they kind of evolved for about 10 years where they were doing this thrashy death metal, blackened thrash metal with death metal vocals, black metal lyrics and death metal vocals is hodgepodge. And now their new album that's out right now, which is insane, by the way, out now on Metal Blade Records, is back to the early, very chromatic, jarring, incredible, technical death metal.
and what about Goats of Doom?
I
I just wanted to say
You
Goats
just
of
wanted
Doom.
to check that band name off. That's fine.
Yes.
I'm not too familiar with them.
I in the last year where I was doing like reviews all the time, I wanted to only review bands with goat in the name.
That's fair.
But
You should be good
I
go for it.
reviewed two of their records. They're a really good Swedish death metal band.
I think I'm gonna have to acquiesce, even though Cattle Decapitation would be my like honorable mention out of this list. Like Obituary, Cattle Decapitation, Chrysian, Cataclysm. Cataclysm has never been anything but technical death metal. They've been brutal technical death metal the entire time. They've never done a weird album. They've always been very consistent. I think I'm
Well,
gonna have to go with Black Dahlia Murder.
That's another thing we can say about every band we have chosen, except for Carcass. Oh, we
I
acquiesced
mean,
on. Never mind. Carcass is not. I forgot. I acquiesced on Carcass. So,
Morbid Angel has again not.
but Morbid
Honestly, if
Angel
their
is not
early
on the
stuff
list.
wasn't so like the greatest ever, they wouldn't make the list at all based on the rest of the albums. They
I
wouldn't.
think Kingdom's Disdained was pretty good.
King of the Disdained is good, and I like Tucker. even though he's like a weird Luddite guy. That's fine. I think
He's
they're
not.
great.
He's not David Vincent, and David Vincent is one of those special
David Vincent
vocalists
is,
for me.
yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me. So at this moment we're gonna settle on this Mount Rushmore.
And for the record, the reason why I set it up the way I did was so maybe we could actually come to a consensus.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's no other way. We'd be battling this shit out forever. So again, Death, clear cut number one first draft pick, all time Hall of Famer, end of story.
No, 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 nothing. Just it is.
It is. Carcass, hard
No,
to argue. Their
was it Carcass?
value and say Carcass two, hard to argue.
Yeah,
Three, I went Cannibal.
I acquiesced.
Have
Cannibal.
to go to Cannibal. Four, Black Dahlia Murder.
Mm-hmm.
So
The
which it
only
weirdly becomes like two we agreed on. Basically, two we agreed on and two we split.
right. That is actually far better than I expected. And just and I'm right now there's someone listening who's saying you didn't name
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. Okay, that's
Somebody's
great.
exploding out of their skin listening to this. Who's good? I hopefully come at us in the please come at us in the comments. Please
Please. But let
come
me
at us
say
on YouTube
in
or drop a comment on Twitter and follow Nick and myself.
but in our defense, like Keefy mentions Immolation. And I only heard of Immolation because I saw them open for Mayhem.
I
I had
opened for
never
Immolation with my first band, and they are, if you live in the New York City area, Immolation and Suffocation constantly played.
I had never
Constantly.
heard of these dudes. And they come out, they play this amazing set. The guitar player looked like satanic Bob Kulick, not Bruce, but Bob. God rest him.
Yes, Robert
And
Vina, who I've interviewed not too long ago.
tell me I'm wrong. He looks like
He
satanic
looks
Bob
like
Kulick.
he does bear a striking resemblance to Bob Kulick. Rest in
And
peace, Bob. He just passed away, right?
yeah, like last year. And they come out, they play this amazing blistering set, and I'm like, man, who are these guys? Let me look. Oh my God, 15 albums. How did I miss this? And it's just,
Suffo. So Suffo, right, is a band that is untouchable on a lot of levels. Perfected the blast beat to the point that everyone copied that dude. Derek Boyer, one of the all-time great bass players. Terrence Hobbs, one of the all-time great death metal, technical death metal guitarists. Frank the Tank, the Chop. He is literally an icon of death metal. And he retired, and they're still good without him, which is unfathomable to me. But
it in even in this wonderful modern age, death metal is exceedingly underground. I would make the argument that black metal somehow has gotten more popular and
surely.
more above ground, which makes no sense
Did you
to
see
me.
Dark Throne trending on Twitter today because of the new single?
Really?
Trended on global Twitter. Dark Throne. Not my Twitter, because I have my global location
Right.
turned off. So when I see what's trending, because I'm a social media guy, I need to see the whole world, even though I'm logged in to Ghost Cult more than anything. Dark Throne. Trending on Twitter. How? How? Because Fenris is a gift to God from God.
Right, and he's an amazing.
We didn't mention Behemoth. Speaking of Satanism, like
Right.
Behemoth arguably went from being a straight up blacky death metal band, a blackened death metal, and a very straightforward death metal band at that, to being this like progressive avant garde technical death metal band. Now they're doing kind of their own. I mean, it's almost their own style. It's it's kind of almost a heavy
and
metal plus death metal.
we also didn't mention At the Gates. We didn't
I mentioned
mention
At the Gates in my
Oh,
original.
I'm sorry.
I mean, At the Gates is a band that, like, okay, if Mount Rushmore had 8 instead of 4, At the Gates would clearly be on there with Obituary. We didn't mention, I mentioned Nile, a iconic, original.
I saw them on that same tour with Black Dahlia Murder and King Diamond.
Yes, Nile is phenomenal, and I'm very much looking forward. Probably be one of the top records of next year without even having heard it. Nile has a new record coming next year.
The idea of whittling it down,
It's impossible.
well, that's why I decided let's go based on what the precedents were. Something cool, something interesting, and something we could finish. And where are we at now? We are gotta be pushing about an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I should run a stopwatch on these things. I don't know, man. Like, yeah, it was really Please, if we missed somebody major, I don't think so. I love that you mentioned Cryptopsies. Shame on me. At one point, they were one of my. I love Matt McGatchy.
Dude, it's shame on both of us for
Don't
not
care.
mentioning 1,000 bands.
Don't care what you think about Lord Worm versus Matt, and
And yeah, I'm not gonna say
these bands are overwhelmingly male and white, except for a couple, which is bizarre.
Internal
But
Bleeding has a lady on the bass, I believe.
and Suffo, as Terrence, of course, and
Bolt Thrower has a lady on the bass.
yeah, Bolt Thrower classically, yeah, but not a very diverse, not the most diverse group of artists.
If you look at death metal, it's a bunch of chubby white dudes in camo cargo pants.
That is a fact. I still think Napalm Death, maybe people can sound off in the comments. I think of Napalm Death classically, historically, as a death metal band, much more than that. In fact, they innovated and invented grindcore to a perfect note. But then they went away from that, as artists are wont to do. I don't want to be lumped in with all these people, and I want to be something else. And they became a more classic death metal band after straight up inventing grindcore.
Thank you, Jesse Pintado.
Terrorizer, right? We didn't talk about Terrorizer. So Terrorizer, Lockup, which was like sort of the descendants of Terrorizer. There's many supergroups. There's many bands.
Look, you can grab a stone. And
Mr. Bungle was meant to be a death metal band, by the way, and they ended up whatever they ended up becoming. But
you can huck a rock down a street and hit 15 death metal bands.
You might,
especially
in my town.
And you're going to kick up a lot of dust in the meantime. But
St. Louis has a lot of black metal bands. I don't know, and a lot of thrash bands like Neo Thrash, Pizza Thrash. They have a lot of crossover bands in St. Louis now.
Yeah, I'm not really paying attention.
I am.
Storm
Ruler has a brand new album coming out this week. They're from right in your backyard.
There is a gothic black metal band whose name I will not mention, who actually created the genesis for this podcast.
Oh, right then.
Because they big timed me.
I remember. So we're good on the 4. Is there anything else you want to add to this discourse? You want to pull a plug in it? You want to pull the plug, or do you want to keep going? Is there any other points we could make? Any other stratification of these illustrious 20 or so bands or 25 bands we've kind of prattled about?
I just wish we had more time to bring all of them to a farm and just have some guitars and just sing about decapitating the goats.
Fair enough.
And then after we're done singing about decapitating the goats, then we decapitate the goats.
What do goats ever do to you? I mean,
and then make goat curry.
Goat curry is fantastic, and a good curry is always good.
Look, you said it's too white, so.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
And it's delicious. Goat curry is fucking delicious.
Do you think this concept is worth revisiting for other subgenres of metal? Is this a future? We need a chaser, and we don't have any ideas. Is this a future portent of things to come?
This is the oh my god, tonight's not working out right. I already bought a beer for this, so I want to drink it on the podcast. What's the next Mount Rushmore? We could actually do a series of these.
I mean, Doom. We're going to do a Doom series with a guest soon, so we might just skip Doom. And I'm such a Doom person that battle could go on and on. Could do thrash, can do hardcore punk, can do crossover, can do black metal, can do newer metal bands, modern metal, which is what I consider to be sort of American metal bands since the 2000s.
The great thing about metal is you are never going to have a shortage of dudes and women saying, hey, what if we took that and stuck it with this and called it gent?
Gent band.
What's gent mean? I don't know.
So this is a fun fact. I skipped it for the news, because it won't be current by the time this airs, whenever that is. So just really quick, the King Crimson documentary is out as of this recording. It has a global event coming up in the Court of the Crimson King, 50 Years of King Crimson. It is eye-opening, it is frightening, it is tense, and I interviewed the director, and I made an assertion that the 90s of King Crimson, that has like a very select audience, those like really weird 6-member, 2 drums, 2 guitars, 2 basses setup, where they did that series of albums and then live albums. has like a direct lineage to your Polyphias, your Animals as leaders, your Covet, your Burnth, all these weird Contortionist. These bands draw from that, whether they do it consciously or not. It's
All right, all
been
right,
done
all
already.
right.
So no, I'm just saying that like there's value in these discussions. I'm not trying to drag
Agreed.
it out. I'm just saying that guy agreed with me, and he's like, I'm not even a prog music fan. I'm just a punk nerd, and I happen to be friends with. I'm the only person that like Fripp would allow to be like that close to the band and get the story. So it was very interesting. He's not a prog person, so like it totally doesn't have that lens of I am a prog nerd, and if I made a documentary about King Crimson, or I'm a thrash nerd, and if I made a documentary about thrash, it would be through my eyes and ears, right? That's
Right.
what I'm saying. So this is probably a harbinger of shit to come if you like this podcast. Shall I take us home, Daddy?
Take it home.
This has been the Glacially Musical Podcast. We greatly appreciate you listening. If you made it this far, you are a real one. Thank you for being here. Smash that like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review, or a 1-star review, or a no-star review on
Wait,
Apple.
I'm sorry. I'm going to ask that they finger fudge the like button.
Finger fudge the like button in perfect Nick Cameronese. And yeah, man, we really appreciate these things. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you hated this. Let us know if you love this. I personally love this, but it may not be for everybody. That being said, this has been the Glacially Musical Podcast, and it does not play in Peoria. However, Peoria might have a good sandwich shop or two, according to Yelp.